Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
All right. Well, welcome to KRA's The Hub podcast. I am Jonathan Overall, the host of the podcast. If you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, I encourage you to follow us there for our latest content. Stay up to date. If you're listening on YouTube, I'd like to encourage you to like and subscribe this video on YouTube, to follow us as well for more content. But today is a special edition of our podcast. If you've been following us this year, we've been focused on getting to know KRA. Each month, we've been highlighting different leaders within the organization, different aspects of the company. This month, the month of February that we're recording this, is KRA's 45th anniversary. And so our special guest today is the founder and CEO of KRA, Mr. Knowlton Atterbeary. Mr. Atterbeary, welcome and congratulations on 45 years.
Jonathan, it's great to be with you and your team. Really appreciate what you guys have done with the podcast and reaching out to industry, letting them know what we're about and what we do. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today. I understand you have some really tough questions for your guests.
We won't make it the hot seat today, but personally, we do want to hear from you. And I want to start off by you taking us back to 1981. And when you reflect on those times, what were some of the factors and the influences of, really you being inspired to start this company that is KRA?
Boy, that does take me back, Jonathan, 45 years. I didn't think 45 years ago I'd be sitting here talking with you and others about a company that has, prospered and done some really great work and has had some impact in the workforce field, both as an industry and also a place where some of our employees have had an opportunity to grow over decades. So it's been a real pleasure and a blessing. Boy, what was on my mind then? Well, first of all, I was back in the 80s, I was a policy analyst working for a private company, and I was looking at issues that affected disadvantaged communities. I was looking at housing and urban development kinds of programs and policies, education, substance abuse prevention, mental health, transportation, traffic safety, and of course, manpower, which is what the Employment and Training Administration's name was at that time. And as I was working with these various programs, it became clear to me that there was an interest on the part of the federal policymakers to have some sort of impact in disadvantaged communities by throwing money at these various programs. But what became very clear to me was that none of these programs' goals or objectives were aligned for the benefit of the overall community. So it occurred to me at that time, as I studied these programs and the policies and got involved with them, that because the alignment wasn't there wasn't going to be that level of uplift in the communities that had been targeted. And needless to say, these disadvantaged communities were communities of color, communities that were just economically depressed and had lots of issues, many of the same issues we have today. Nevertheless, my thinking came around to the point where I believe that community economic independence was linked to a skilled workforce. And developing workers and growing strong communities became my interest. And as you know, Jonathan, that is the mission and the purpose of KRA Corporation. It's been my life's work for the last 45 years.
So you mentioned the vision, the mission, and really the core values of KRA, what it's been founded on. Now, obviously, in 45 years, the decades, and there have been shifts in the economy. There's been times of uncertainty, a lot of change throughout that time. How has that vision and the core values of KRA helped to guide you as a leader in leading this organization through those times of change?
Well, we've stayed true to the mission as well as the values. When I look at the mission and the values and the vision, it really constitutes the faith of KRA Corporation. It's what we believe, it's what we practice. And let me give you an example. Take knowledge, it being one of our three values: knowledge, responsibility, and achievement. Take knowledge as an example. We continually invest in education and training for our employees, both internally through our learning lab, which is really a wide variety of courses and other resource materials, and other training opportunities through conferences, conventions, internal employee-driven committees such as our technology committee. We have a wellness and well-being committee. But all of these things create opportunities for our employees to learn. And with that learning, it helps build that knowledge base that I'm talking about, which is really one of our values. And it's because we spend so much time and resources on staff development. I mean, it's really central to what we do. We want our employees to be exposed not only to the day-to-day frontline work that they're doing, but we want them to understand the industry, how it operates, where it needs to be shored up, where they can contribute with their skills and their interests to make us stronger and make the industry stronger. So knowledge is very important in that regard. And it is the knowledge that I think has gotten us through these years when there's been so much uncertainty, so much turmoil, like we have today, as a matter of fact. And I think it's one of the most important values that we have. As I said earlier, our values, our mission are the faith of what we do. And it's something that we believe in strongly, and they actually create the guardrails within which we practice and deliver services and solutions to our customers.
Now, throughout the eras of the 45 years, KRA has had the opportunity within the industry to see the change from early workforce programs, WIOA, and what we're still currently operating under WIOA today. When you think back to how KRA has also had a chance to diversify and expand through different markets throughout the country, what have been some of the leadership lessons that emerged throughout that time that you would say still shape how you guide and lead the organization today?
Jonathan, it's not like that when I finished my formal education in graduate school that I got on a bus and said, I'm going to become a workforce specialist. That wasn't the case. I had an interest in doing some more analytical work, like I was talking about in terms of the policy analysis. And one thing led to another. What I didn't do in graduate school was to take a lot of management courses. And it became clear to me as KRA began to grow that I needed to figure out how better to manage the operation, the diversity we had in terms of our geographical dispersion. And I realized that expanding nationally and diversifying our services fundamentally changed how I looked at my job and how I led. Early on, I was hands-on with everything, as you know. As we came to scale, I had to transition from being directly involved with everything that went on and focus more on clarity, culture, and capability. The biggest lesson was that growth amplifies whatever exists, both the good and the bad. If the vision isn't clear, confusion multiplies. If the culture isn't intentional, inconsistency spreads. So we have become, I don't want to say extremely disciplined, but very disciplined about defining who we are, what we stand for, and what excellence looks like across our platform of projects and programs around the country. Another critical shift in my thinking was that we had to do a greater job in investing in people. We do a lot of that, as I mentioned, and you know, Jonathan, you know that to be the case, because with growth, it's easy to get into new markets, but it's very difficult to manage those markets if you haven't invested in building people. And I think that's the basis of why we develop strong regional leaders who have the ability to manage people, manage contracts, and deliver services to our customers. Diversification also caused me to think about focus. Where to? When you diversify, opportunities come to scale as well. And all opportunities are not consistent with our vision, with our mission, and our capabilities. I had to learn how to do a better job in evaluating growth opportunities through a planning lens, having a better sense of direction of where I wanted to take the company. So today, I think these lessons have really guided us and helped us get through some of the challenges of expansion. I'd like to think that we do a better job leading with clarity. I'd like to think that we do a better job of protecting our culture. As I said earlier, we invest in people and we grow with discipline. Every organization is a little different, and that's the mix of experiences that I walk away with. Again, clarity, culture, and capability that are important and define how we got to where we are today.
All sound core values, guiding principles to help lead the organization. So thank you for giving us some insight into how that's been applied over the last 45 years. I want to ask you a question that's really focused on the milestones or perhaps moments that have stood out over the last 45 years that when you look back on, you would say were meaningful or that meant the most to you then and perhaps now in retrospect.
We've had a number of experiences that really have been important to me personally and have really helped shape the company. But there's one thing that does stand out, and let me just give you a little context for it. In our the first 20 years of the company, we're doing a lot of policy work. And then probably the next 10 years is when we transitioned fully to direct services and operations. And so roughly in 2016, I was recognized by the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals and received the Peter Kaiser Leadership Award, which is one of the highest awards that they issue. The award criteria, or the award, is based on demonstration of improving programs, customer outcomes, and other criteria. But what it really meant to me was the fact that it recognized that over the prior 7, 8, 10-year period, that we had done really a great job in making our mark in the workforce industry. And it was really a reflection of the great job all of our employees and our partners have done during that period of time. That was a big deal for the company and for me, receiving the Peter Kaiser Leadership Award at the National Convention in 2016.
I was at that conference. Yeah. I think that was Orlando.
Orlando, exactly.
That's right, yeah. Remember how hot it was that week. As you were talking before, and even then, I was thinking about, as you mentioned, the guiding principles and how really, as you talk about the inspiration, the factors that were taking place in the world, the economy when KRA was started, the mission, the vision, the guiding principles that have led, you really see that culmination in the recognition of an award like that by a reputable organization, a great partner of KRA's, the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals, and really how that can lead an organization and really be a description of how you endure the times. And I'm thinking back to KRA's 40th anniversary, which was in 2021. We were somewhat in the middle or coming out of the deepest parts of the pandemic, and how that was really a time when perhaps the company and companies around our industry and around the world were tested in a way, and having the merits, but also having the core values to lead through that were an important part of enduring and coming out on the other side to be able to celebrate this 45th anniversary. Right now, in our economy, the workforce, there are a lot of shifts, technology, labor shortages, equity conversations, economic uncertainty. How do you feel KRA is positioned today to respond to this moment?
I think we're strategically positioned to navigate through the current shifts, leveraging the 40 years of experience that we have with WIOA and other programs. We can demonstrate and provide stable and innovative solutions during times of economic vitality that you just described and mentioned. There are a couple of things that I think that we're particularly strong in and will help us guide us through this period of uncertainty. And they've helped us in the past as well. First of mind and clear and obvious to everybody is technology. We've got an internal learning lab, as you well know, focusing on technology, both on artificial intelligence as well as on virtual reality training that we hope to integrate more broadly in some of our program offerings in various locations. And I think that's going to be really important in getting job seekers trained up with the kind of skills that they need to be ready to work in jobs for the future. So that's an exciting area for us. Next, labor shortages. I never thought we would have so many job openings and unemployed people, and so few people qualified for those positions. And that coupled with the birth rate in this country, coupled with the changes that we've got going on in immigration, is making it extremely difficult for employers to staff up with quality workers. So what we're doing and what I think we can do going forward is continue to align our offerings with businesses. Business first is our attitude. We want to make sure that we understand our businesses much better than we did 40 years ago. 40 years ago, you knock on an employer's door, ask for a job opening, and then run back to the office and find somebody to fill the job. Well, today it's more of a consulting kind of approach, and I know you're very familiar with this strategy, that we really want to partner with our businesses. We want to understand what makes them successful. We want to understand how we can help them identify new partners or additional partners so they can continue to grow and expand their operations and provide employment in the community and become more of an economic engine than they are currently. There are two of the things that I think we can leverage going forward. Again, the technology, which is not new to many, but I think the way we want to integrate it into our training offerings, I think through virtual reality continues to expand and has continued promise. And the labor shortages that can best be addressed by aligning with the local businesses first, or be business first in our alignment. There's always a threat, particularly in workforce. There's always a threat of resource or budget cuts. And one of the things that we do because of our mission is work with our national trade associations, NAWDAP being one, NOB being another, and working with them and aligning with their interest to work with federal budget managers and policy managers and so forth to try to help and ensure that funds coming out of the federal budget, notably, are not disproportionately impacting communities of need. And that's something that's very important to what we do and how we do. So if we look at toward the future and how we're going to deal with some of these major shifts, being part of that conversation, being at the table when some of these budget decisions are being made. The communities where many of our job seekers and businesses, by the way, are located, we're going to do our best to continue to make sure those resources are available. So going forward in the future, I think we can leverage some of the things that we've learned in the past and some of the strategies that we have in place currently. I think it's going to be a great period for KRA going forward.
So on that note, we've talked about the past, we've talked about some of the shifts throughout the 45 years, we've talked about the present, you planted a seed of what's to come. I want to ask you this question about the future, from a personal perspective. When you think about the future, what do you hope that people will say about this organization? Not just what KRA's done, but its role in the future of workforce development.
I would hope that they would say that we were a forward-thinking, innovative companies that moved past traditional job placement and drove long-term economic mobility and resilience in the communities where we worked. I mean, the communities where we work, hands down, need to be resilient to become solid economic communities, contributing to the well-being and welfare of the overall city or county where they're located. And if down the line people look back and say, well, what did KRA do? And I think I'd really be pleased if they credited us for being forward thinking. And that would be important to me, and had really kind of an economic orientation to all the things that they did, bettering businesses and bettering people. I think there are lots of ways that can be expressed. Looking back at some of the things we're talking about in technology, maybe they'll look back and say we were architects of future workforce. I don't know, but I'd really be flattered, and I think our employees would be flattered if that was one of the comments they made. Looking back on from where we started and where we ended up, and where we're going, I think that they'd have to say that not only were they forward thinking, but they were a firm that was really dedicated to using hard data to drive results, and designing and developing strategies and programs around the data itself to foster change in the communities where they were located. And I guess last, you don't do this work by yourself. We've got partners of all types that we work with and collaborate with. If there was some recognition that we were a trusted partner from a business standpoint and as a community partner, that would be extremely flattering to myself as well as our employees. In essence, I would just hope that they would look back on us favorably, forward-thinking, and had a people-first philosophy.
Well, Mr. Atterbeary, I want to thank you for taking us back down memory lane, as well as the current and the future as well. I think you shared some great insights, personally as well as professionally, and just the pride that you carry for this company and how that really emanates throughout the culture. I want to thank you for all of your accomplishments, and again, congratulate you and the company. And it's been a great journey of mine as well to be a part of this and to help tell the story of this legacy. And so I want to encourage all of those that are listening as well to stay tuned to some of our other communication channels like LinkedIn, our website. We're going to be sharing more about the legacy of KRA throughout this month and throughout this year as we celebrate the 45th anniversary.
Thank you, Jonathan, for highlighting KRA and its accomplishments over the last 45 years. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.